Okay, item 4, which is on your agenda, is being removed from the agenda tonight. However, I'd like to make a few comments. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Reeser came forward because he had an issue. He took a lot of personal criticism because of the fact that he did come forward. But I don't think anybody should feel intimidated. We should be very transparent up here. I think we are most of the time, if not all of the time. And anytime we can have some open dialogue on any subject, I think it's a good thing. So I just wanted to make those comments. Item 4 has been removed. Going right into item number 5, it is the matter of the design review, a matter of the review of the design review process in the building department. I have a motion to get it on the floor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. This has been brought, I will start out on this. This has been brought before our committee. It's been brought forward so we can have some open dialogue. I know in the past we've had some unanswered questions with the process itself. But this whole thing has been brought forward so to see if there's any steps we can take to make it better, make the process a little easier. What do businesses like about the design review process and what don't they like? Does one size really fit all? And anytime we can avoid some conflict in the future, I think we might be able to get some good out of this. So this is my thoughts on it going forward. Is there any other committee members or anybody like to weigh in on that? Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the design review is a good starting point. I think we need to be more business friendly. We need to be encouraging businesses to come into the city of Elyria, not making them seek business to locate their business elsewhere. I think that we have to maybe have some plans in place when someone is looking that they can say, okay, you need to do this and this and this. I don't know that that's happening right now. I'm being told that it is, but I don't know that it is. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to weigh in? Mr. Bullock?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the list of items that you have given us, could we ask the mayor or someone to go over these to see how many of these we meet already and how we're doing on these items? And the section number 1, design review process. Are we meeting any of these items already, or how are we doing that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't have the list that you have in front of you. I'm not sure what the list is.
Does anyone else have it?
While that's being passed, if I may, this subject was discussed in depth with one of the committees within the 2015 planning process. There were, I don't know, 6 or 7 committees established: neighborhoods, parks, infrastructure, etc. One of them was economic development, and it was determined to place this subject in the economic development subcommittee, recognizing the economic ramifications of design review. And the recommendation that came out of the 2015 process was that we shift from a city staff committee that reviewed design review applications to turning it into a public, community-based, public, community resident appointed membership and board, which was in fact done, and the appointments include those by the city council. So that was the chief recommendation that came out of a community-based review of design review, looking at it from an economic development perspective, and that's what that took place. Now, one of the things, when design review, besides its mission of improving the quality of the community, making the city a more attractive place and desirable place for business and industry, as well as the residents who live within here, part of the criteria that we looked at from an administrative standpoint was to streamline the process as much as possible. And that's where it was determined to place a city staff committee in place so that those individuals who are employees of the city could review these projects in a short time period. That committee met typically on Tuesdays, and the building community recognized that the sign companies, the architects, etc., and quite often they would gear their timing of submissions to that Tuesday morning just hours before the committee would meet. And, excuse me, the committee would review it and render its opinion that afternoon, usually just within a few hours of the applications. And we can go over those applications and give a record of that. There were, I don't know, 750, maybe 1,000 applications during those first 5 or 6 years. And I would say, when the last calculation made showed that the average turnaround time was approximately 2 days to turn that around, which is an exceptionally fast period of time. That was one of the downsides in what has been done with the turning it over to the citizens-based process, because our volunteer residents are unable to meet with that frequency. They meet twice a month and give a tremendous service to the city. So the turnaround time is not quite the same, but it is still a very short period of time. As it relates to these list of items, there's a description of a moratorium, which would be to suspend it. Next one is validity. The issue with design review is that, again, its mission is to improve the safety and well-being and quality of the community, and it's been well demonstrated in other communities, the courts, professional journals, etc. And that can be described however, whatever depth you'd like. Record keeping, as was pointed out the last discussion, that the committee meets, meetings are recorded, their minutes taken and approved and are available for inspection. The meetings are so noted at each council meeting, that meeting on Tuesday afternoons. The guidelines, they are equally available. They're on the city's website. Waiver exceptions. I'm not sure about the words waiver and exceptions, but design review by nature is a subjective process, number one, but its foundation is based on consistency. So, at almost all times when a decision is made, an applicant will say, well, what about this property and that property, what have you, and because people want to compare themselves to other projects. So it's critical that design review be consistent, and when there's like circumstances, to act consistently, which I believe the history will clearly show that's been the case. The other part of that is there are times when a project, there's latitude where one requirement may be a hardship in a particular situation for a building project, and when that's demonstrated, the design review process will allow that to give relief on one circumstance because of the hardship demonstrated, but ask them to make up for it in another area. So while there may be some construction material latitude given on one hand, they may plant extra trees and other landscaping to give it the overall effect. So those are the kind of things that take place. As it relates to qualifications of the design review board members, like I think really all of the boards and commissions of the city, there was a philosophy when the charter was created back in the 1960s. There's the Board of Building Standards that requires particular expertise, electricians, general contractors, etc., plumbers, to cover various disciplines. But aside from that, I don't think, and Mr. Schilling might be able to come up with another one, perhaps, but I think that's our only board or commission in the city that requires specific expertise and credentials by the members. So the philosophy back then, and has been sustained, is to look for community members that have a common interest. So there are no qualifications other than there's been an attempt to find people who have some sort of background in the areas. I believe we have a landscape professional. There was an architect in there at one point. I'm not sure that person's still on board. So there's been an attempt by council in your position, put people that you've appointed as others, to look for people that have various background. So I think that covers the items there. And then the building department review, personnel review. Perhaps Mr. Lahedi can speak to that, but employees have a personnel file, and they're Typically, what makes that file are disciplinary actions, and there may or may not be any in those with particular employees. Organizational structure, similarly, the building department is required to have various credentials to be a certified department. We have to have those certified in all the different areas of professional background in terms of general construction, plumbing, electrical inspection, and so on, that we have to maintain. That would be the qualifications as well. Procedures for a permit process, Mr. Laheda can speak to that, but it's a kind of an age-old process that we go through, and it's, all the forms and processes are on our website.